Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Arcana Knight Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post-King's Court. With the release of the latest TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster set, we were given a bunch of new support to support the Arcana Knight deck. This is a deck that focuses on all the different cards used by Yugi in the original series, including Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight. We were given a bunch of new cards for the overall play style of the deck, which can take a fusion route going into the many different extra deck options for the different monsters in the deck, or the main focus, which the deck kind of took a turn for with the new playstyle, is to summon out the Egyptian gods much more easily from your deck by adding them to your hand, and then having the three monsters on the field ready to tribute for said card. So I definitely say it's a big feel for Yugi's deck with a little bit more different warrior playstyle. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the actual Arcana Knight monsters, I am running 3 Queen's Knight. I wanted to mix and match the numbers I see for the most consistency of summoning out all the different cards, with Queen's Knight just being your monster with 1500 attack normal monster, so it's very easy to summon out on the field with many of the different cards we run in the deck, but also with just some of our generic staple cards being a level 4 normal monster. But her main combo card is with the next card, which is King's Knight. With King's Knight, when this card is normal summon, while you control Queen's Knight, you can special summon one Jack's Knight from your deck. So Jack's Knight is the next card we'll talk about, but being a more difficult monster to summon out, the main play will revolve around your King's Knight and Queen's Knight to set up this card, giving you the 3 monsters on the field to either go into your fusion summon of Arcana Knight Joker, or even just giving you the option for the 3 tributes needed for your Egyptian god card of choice, with one of my favorite ones being Slifer the Sky Dragon, and just the hand recycle consistency to keep this card at a powerhouse. For the last of the original Arcana Knight monsters, I also run 2 Jack's Knight. I only run 2 of this card. It's a level 5 monster, so a little more difficult to summon out onto the field, but I would say the best play, like I said before, is to use King's Knight with Queen's Knight to summon this card out onto the field with that special summon, either giving you then the play for the fusion, or even the option to go into Arcana Extra Joker, being the Link 3 monster, needing 3 warrior monsters with different names, and fulfilling that requirement on the field with those 3 monsters. For some of the new support from the King's Court booster set, I am running 1 Arcana Triumph Joker, another boss monster, I would say, from the new set. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can send 1 Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight from your hand and or face-up monster zone to the graveyard to special summon this card, and this card gains 500 attack for the combined number of cards in both players' hand, and you can discard 1 card to destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls with the same type, whether it's monster, spell, or trap, as the discarded card. So this is a big take on the Arcana Knight Joker, being the fact that Arcana Knight Joker negates cards when activated when you discard of the same type, and Arcana Triumph Joker destroys them. And you still need all 3 of the cards to set this card up on the field. You really only need the 1 though, because you can easily summon back all the different original monsters onto the field, and this card works from when it's in the graveyard also. So when you have this card in the graveyard, you can just summon it back onto the field, and it goes off of how many resources you and your opponent have. So if your opponent doesn't have that many resources, it won't be as strong, but then you can still rely on it for the destruction of your opponent's cards on the field. If they have a lot of face-up spells, a lot of face-up monsters, you name it. For some of the other new monsters, I also run 3 Joker's Knight. With this one, you can send 1 Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight from your deck to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And if you do, this card's name becomes the sent monster's name until the end phase. And during the end phase of this card is in your graveyard, you can target 1 other light warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, add this card to your hand. You go and use each effect of Joker's Knight once per turn. So just an easy way to special summon another level 5 monster onto the field. Taking the name of the other Arcana Knight monsters means that you can at least have it count as one of the names on the field to combo with some of the other cards, including King's Knight being one of the most important ones, or just a monster on the field with the required name if you were to summon out Arcana Triumph Joker onto the field, having this name taken and being able to recycle all the different cards. So if you go through your Jack's Knight that much more quickly, you can at least put them back into the deck using your Joker Knight while adding this card back to your hand. With the last of the new Arcana Knight support being 3 Imperial Bower. If if you control no other monsters, you can tribute this card. Take two different monsters from your deck among Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight, and either add them to your hand or special summon each monster. You can only use this effect of Imperial Bower once per turn. So this is more setup, and the fact that you need those monsters for the special summon of one of our bigger boss monsters in the deck is a big plus there for sure. And what's great about the Arcana Triumph Joker is it also has a question mark attack, which will go for more of the search plays when we get to the spell cards. For the Egyptian gods, I run one Winged Dragon Ra and one Slifer the Sky Dragon. The reason you don't run Obelisk in the deck is because this deck searches out monsters with question mark attack points, and Obelisk has 4,000, so there's no way to search out that card with the cards we already have in the deck, and why we can run so little numbers of the Egyptian gods and still have consistency to add them to our hand, because we can rely on those other cards we have. For more of the hand trap support, because we do run a good number of different warrior monsters to combo with the other cards we run, I also run 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. More shutdown power for our opponent, whether they were trying to do something in the graveyard or add a card from their deck to hand. You have Ash Blossom to rely on to stop those cards. And lastly, I would say a little more important of a hand trap. I normally don't run Psyframe Gear Gamma in my decks, but one of this and one Psyframe Driver along with the playset of Gamma. This is more for the fact that you have plenty of monsters that require search for your deck, so being able to rely on Imperial Bower or even our next spell card, which we'll get to in just a second, means that if your opponent were to stop that play, it would take a big investment away from your own cards. So being able to rely on Psyframe Gear Gamma to stop your opponent's Ash Blossoms can come in handy, and then also just give us the option to go into the synchro play depending on the turn we activate this card, especially on our own turn, because then given those resources on the field, we can then use them before they're banished at the end of the turn. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. One of the best searchers in the deck is Joker's Straight. You can discard one card, special summon one Queen's Knight from your deck, and add one King's Knight or Jack's Knight from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one monster. You cannot special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of this turn except light warrior monsters. And during the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one light warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, add this card to your hand. You can only use each effect of Joker's Straight once per turn. So this is the best way to set up your initial King's Knight and Queen's Knight play to summon out Jack's Knight. Being able to summon out your Queen's Knight to the field, adding King's Knight to your hand, normal summoning it, and then having those two cards ready to summon Jack's Knight with that immediately normal summon, and then having the option for the next play for whatever cards you may have in your hand, whether it be the God cards, your Arcana Triumph Joker, you name it. You have plenty of options, but for more additional search, I'm also running the 3 Thunder Speed Fusion, a quick play spell during the main or battle phase. Immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one level 10 monster. And if you control Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight, you can apply this effect instead. If you add one level 10 non-dark monster with question mark attack from your deck to your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one level 10 monster. You can activate one Thunder Speed summon per turn. So with the option of the question mark summon, that applies to Winged Dragon Ra, Slifer the Sky Dragon, or even the Arcana Triumph Joker that I spoke of before. You have all this search available to you in this deck with this one quick play spell. And after that play, you just have the option to have this card activate as long as you go for the main play of the whole deck, which is to have Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight on the field ready to summon out your bigger monster. Now, to go for more of the fusion play, which was a big part of what I wanted to focus on in the deck as a whole, I also run 2 face card fusion. You fusion summon one light warrior fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If you control Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight, you can use one monster from your deck as fusion material. You can only activate one face card fusion per turn. So with this option, having those monsters on the field, you can give this card the extra push needed to summon out your go-to fusion, which is the Arcana Knight Joker, by using this spell card. And it's really the only target you'll go for in the deck with the different, Arcana Knights that we're running. But still, a great way just to get out a boss monster with one less option for the cards. That's why I only run 2 of it. The main plays definitely do come down to the Arcana Triumph Joker and the God cards, but I really wanted to have the fusion play still available in this deck to use, because it's definitely one of the more funner plays to rely on when going up against your opponent and having all those cards in your hand to use to stop their own activated plays. For a quick way to summon out the Queen's Knight onto the field, I also run the 2 Unexpected Die. More of the setup. If you have your Unexpected Die and King's Knight in your hand, that can easily just as much be the play you need to summon out if you don't have the Joker straight in your hand. Being able to rely on those 2 cards to then summon out Jack's Knight, and then just having the Thunderspeed summon in your hand to get out another monster out on the field that much more quickly. For some other one-ofs for the spells in the deck, I also run 1 Monster Reborn and 1 Reinforcements of the Army. Sometimes you could just be short 1 monster on the field for the play you want to go for, so Monster Reborn can definitely come in handy there. And Reinforcements of the Army can search out a good number of the different warrior monsters we run in the deck, with one of my favorites being to go for the Imperial Bower for just more search off of that card. And that is it for the spells. We'll now move on to the traps. I run 2 Joker's Wild. You, during the main phase or battle phase, send 1 spell from your deck to the graveyard, and that specifically lists all of Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight. And this effect becomes that spell card's effect. When in the graveyard, you can target 1 light warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do add this card to your hand, you can use each effect of Joker's Wild once per turn. So just another easy way to search out the spells we want for our plays, whether it be face card fusion or even our Joker straight. We have all the different options available for those spells in the deck, with just all the different search available in the form of a trap, and not just any trap, but a trap that can recycle itself from the graveyard by giving us that extra additional option to recycle our main go-to monsters, being the Arcana Knights. With the last of the traps in the deck just being 2 Court of Cards. If you control no monsters or only control Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and or Jack's Knight, you can special summon 1 Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight from your hand or graveyard. You can banish up to 1 of each Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight from your hand and or graveyard to draw the same number of cards you banished. You can only use 1 Court of Cards effect per turn, and only once per turn. Now, this is a big play that I like to use, relying on what monster you may have on the field. We get to store a similar play style with Arcana Triumph Joker and also Slifer the Sky Dragon in this deck by needing hand cards for raised attack power. So being able to banish those cards will take away from some of the recyclable plays you can use in the deck, but it adds power to these 2 cards on the field, giving you draw power for Slifer or the draw power for your Arcana Triumph Joker. Having more cards in your hand is an added benefit for both of these cards, which is why I like running Court of Cards, so you have that power boost option available to you. Getting Slifer up and having a lot of cards invested for that play is definitely risky. You could summon out Slifer and not have any cards in your hand, but this card can definitely help for that recycle power. We're running multiples of all the different Arcana Knight monsters, so you shouldn't have any worry for having them to be used in their next plays also, as long as you banish some of the other ones for draw power. And that is it for the main deck. We will now move on to the extra deck. For the fusion, I'm running 2 Arcana Knight Joker. You need Queen's Knight, Jack's Knight, and King's Knight to summon this card, and a fusion of this card can only be done with the above materials, and once per turn when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated that targets a face-up card in the field. Quick effect, you can discard the same type of card to negate that effect. So once again, it doesn't destroy like Triumph Joker, it just negates the card. But if your opponent activates a spell that's just a normal spell, it doesn't really matter, it won't stay on the field. Just being able to stop that play with a 3,800 attack point monster means if your opponent need to rely on that card to destroy this card and they don't really have any other option to go against, it's the best card to negate using your Arcana Knight Joker. It's why I like having the fusion option available in the deck still. It's a very fun deck when you can get out Slifer and Arcana Triumph Joker, but having these available options is another plus that you definitely do need in the deck. I also run 1 Arcana Extra Joker, more of the setup for the discard of your different cards in the hand, and also giving you options for special summoning a level 4 warrior normal monster when it's destroyed, just a recyclable Link monster if you don't have Triumph Joker in your hand, or the fusion play for Arcana Knight Joker. Giving you Arcana Extra Joker on the field can be just as good if you just need a boss monster to get over your opponent. I also run 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Isolde for the Warrior Search, 1 Lena for the fact that we're running a good amount of different light monsters in the deck, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and 1 Borolo Dragon to finish off the Link monsters. For the Xyz monsters, I run 1 Daigusto Morale and 1 Tornado Dragon. Now, if you want to run Utopia, I saw that as a viable play you can use in the deck. Also, you can take these cards out for Utopia and Utopia the Lightning, since it also can limit your plays at times, but I like Daigusto Morale for the special summon of normal monsters, and the Tornado Dragon for destruction against my opponent, Baguska for more shutdown of both the field, while Abyss Dweller takes care of the graveyard, and Wind Up Arsenal Zenmao. You can also use Constellar Pleiades as being a light warrior. It just comes down to what you have more readily available. I know that Zenmao just came out in the King's Court set, set, so a little easier for people to get a hold of to use with all the different level 5 monsters. And lastly, just the one Psyframe Lord Omega for use when you use your Gamma and your other monsters to summon out those cards. And that's it for the extra deck. As for some of the go-to plays, like I said, this is a very fun deck just to see what plays you have available to use, whether you want to summon out Arcana Triumph Joker, go for Slifer. You have all these cards available to you, and a lot of them can come down to just what you open up. If you activate your Jokers straight and then discarding a card, depending on what the card may be, you can set up traps in your graveyard, so you can even set up your Jokers Wild, and then go for the summon of your Queen's Knight, giving you the search for your King's Knight, and then with that being able to summon out your Jack's Knight onto the field can be the play right then and there, just using 2 cards from your hand for the search and summon, and then having still available cards in your hand to tribute these cards out. You can summon the Thunder Speed Fusion summon, giving you the search for whatever you want to summon out onto the field, whether it be your Slifer or your Arcana Triumph Joker. Both of these cards can be summoned by tributing these 3 monsters on the field, having your boss monster with still a couple of cards in your hand left to spare against your opponent. Even summoning Triumph Joker in defense can be a more defensive play if you were to go first, but also being able to rely on the new card for some of your easier summons, Imperial Bower, for the tribute, can give you 2 monsters on the field, and that can just be King's Knight and Queen's Knight, and then the third one taking care of Jack's Knight when you summon those other 2 on the field. And the last one being the Joker's Knight for the option of being able to send one King's Knight, Queen's Knight, or Jack's Knight from your deck to the graveyard to special summon this card and make it that's name. If you, let's say, have your Queen's Knight on the field and you use the effect of Joker's Knight to send King's Knight, you then have this card counting as that name on the field, giving you the option to special summon your Jack's Knight. And what's great also, if you don't have the plays to search out for, let's say for the additional cards to summon out, whether it be Slifer or Arcana Triumph Joker, you do have 2 level 5 monsters in the field which you can overlay to then go into your rank 5 Xyz play to use against your opponent, whether it be the Zenmail, or if you wanted to, get Pleiades, Constellar for the deck, you have plenty of options to use against your opponent. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I was definitely happy to finally get the deck done for you all. It felt like a deck that I was going to sadly be avoiding for the new set, just because of how difficult it was to get a good number of the cards from the set. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.